Nobody would know who started it, why it started, but the fact that I'm wet means a few other people need to get wet.
Yeah.
Get the buckets, wake up the people, start going hostel by hostel and start dunking everybody. And nobody knows why they're dunking me. I have no idea.
Hi, this is Melanie of Pardesi Reviews, and I'm here with a special guest, two guests, members of the actual college where Chhichhore, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Chhichhore, yeah.
Chhichhore, the story that was around that, and they went to see the film yesterday. So this is my neighbor, Seth Rao, and then I have KK on Skype. So I saw the film and I could tell it had so much nostalgia, but I mean, it doesn't have the full impact for me because I didn't live the same kind of college experience. But you had told me you were excited to see the film because the director was a year younger than you, is that correct?
A couple of years younger than us.
Oh, a couple years younger, okay. But you were not an H4.
I was not.
But KK, you were an H4.
Right.
And you sent me a picture today of the actual scene where they were doing the rev up, like, we're going to do this competition. The
pep talk before
the pep talk.
Yeah.
So I was like amazed that a photo actually existed of that moment. That was incredible. So I know your friend was Derek, and you were especially worried whether Derek was going to be portrayed kind of in a positive light. I thought he was like the cool guy, like was smoking every cigarette and all of that. But the actor that played him, how did you think he did capturing your friend, or was everything so fictionalized that you couldn't tell who was supposed to be who?
There was definitely an element of fictionalization. And I think the character Derek is a composite character of two different people.
Okay.
And one of them is Derek, who was my classmate, and very nice guy, great sportsman, and very fun-loving, great to hang out with, nice guy. So I think that part of it was captured really well. I think the intensity, he was very competitive, so
yeah.
Some of the intensity may have been a little more, but it was definitely,
yeah.
It was done well.
I read actually today that the actor Tahir Basin had to do months of training because he was supposed to be able to be good in all of these different sports that were in the competition. So I was like, wow, he really went literally the extra mile to do training and kabaddi and running and all of these different things so that he would look as good of a sportsman as this person was.
Interestingly enough, we had our college reunion a couple of years back, and a few of us got together and we played soccer. And Derek also joined us and we played soccer together. And he was still as good as he was back in college. He was very good, very athletic, and very nice. It was a fun to play with him.
I remember when you told me about watching Three Idiots, and you said the hazing was real.
Yeah.
And it was much harsher, I think, in Three Idiots than this film. It was kind of nice, as like Sushan's character Ani is really afraid because he's a freshman, and Derek and some of the other characters that like Sexa that Varun Sharma is playing are seniors. And they're like, no, we'll show you how it's done dancing. Did that kind of resonate with you guys, that it was more just in fun, or was it actually kind of scary going through that hazing when you first got there?
I think it's all done in jest. There's no, the intentions are just to have fun. Of course, if you're on the receiving end, you don't know what's coming.
Right,
so
it's
a
the
little
fear
scary.
of anticipation. So that was accurate. Then
Yeah.
Sushant was more afraid. It was more the fear, like what could happen in this moment.
Yeah, and it's actually, as you see in the movie, that experience is a very formative experience. A lot of us who have gone through that find ourselves, we become very friendly to the people, the seniors, the guys who are ahead of us.
Oh, really?
And,
Instead of being a separation,
Yeah.
it's more of a bonding?
Yeah,
Okay.
we
So
are.
there is a ritual process. There is hazing when you come in because everybody has cleared the most competitive exam and they come into IITs with certain attitude. And the seniors basically make sure that we're all the same here. Everybody has gone through what you've gone through, and that's just an experience. But to Seth's point, um, there is an event. There's a day that's called the Freshie Night. That day, they are fed well, and after that day, the hazing stops. Officially, everybody is friendly and pally. This business as usual. So there's a kind of ritual process. If it's done correctly, I think it can improve the bonding process because you're going to be spending time with them for the 4 years of your life. So that's one way to quickly accelerate the bonding process as
Now,
you get in.
was H4 really known as the loser dorm, and you had that reputation? I thought.
People love to say that, don't they? To be honest, I mean, our batch, our 4 years, and our seniors, were especially the other composite character part is Amber Singh Dubey. He is a very athletic, very motivated persona, and he was primarily responsible for energizing the freshie population and the sophomore, second years, and so on and so forth. So if I have to credit him. In addition to Derek, Derek is a fun character, but the mastermind behind everything is Amber Singh Dubey. And he galvanized, and in fact, it was so well galvanized that every day we come into the dinner table and we talk about this. What's the strategy? What all we. It was depicted fairly accurately, to be honest, right? Yeah, I mean, we counted points to the T, and there was cycling, there was marathon, there were bizarre things. We didn't leave a chance. Just like the movie said, we didn't leave anything unturned. So
what were the events that you participated in, or you just?
I'm in the cheering squad. I mean, so the phrase that's been akada pakada kichka pakada, that one, right? That was actually kind of made popular by H4. So it is a very H4ish pep talk during matches, during competitions, right? So that stuck. That stuck with the hostel. That is the. I mean, it was a very delightful trip down the memory lane for me. It was all done to the T. I mean, I could relive all those things that was depicted in the movie.
So the end of the movie, I mean, spoilers, we're going to get into heavy spoilers in this, but they actually lose by only at 1 point. Was that the outcome that year that they really...
We won.
You won. Okay, so they changed it.
Yeah, that's what he kept it, secret from us. We actually won the championship for 2 years.
So the rivalry is fairly accurately depicted. H4 and H3 are hostels right next to each other, and there was intense rivalry. I think it's there. It's there to this day.
Wow.
They would always pretty good hostels athletically, so they would always go against each other in the end. Clearly, everybody wants the rights to be the winner.
Well, I think it served the the movie. Like, once I got to the end, I'm like, they're going to lose. Like, how is this? Because at the beginning, I'm like, okay, the son has tried to kill himself because he didn't get into the college. And all he's focused on is that his parents had both gotten into this engineering college, were rankers, as he described them. And his father, meaning to do a nice gesture, saying, when you get in, we'll share a drink with this bottle of whiskey. But actually, he was putting more pressure on his son. Yeah. It was like one more message, or at least that's the way the son always received everything, that I have to do what my parents said. I have to pass this test. And I'm like, we can't get all the way to the end. Like, what is the point of telling your son, as he's lying there in the hospital bed, that, well, we got in and we had all this fun. Like, that can't be the moral of the story. So...
that was a very touching moment for me. I could connect how I interact with my own kids, and
I felt much more like I was resonating with the parent figures.
Yes.
I mean, that's just the stage that I'm in. My youngest has just gone to college, so that's my mindset, is worrying about your kids' mental health at college and being there on their own, and how hard that process is getting there.
Yeah. And we don't realize as parents what's the subconscious pressure, things that we say even by accident, or things that we would like for them to have, or do or be. And that puts in pressure because they look up to us and we don't realize that.
Right.
So I think Nitesh Tiwari did a very good job of, where I kind of did some introspection and I said, wow, am I doing this myself? So I thought that was really well taken.
Right. And I think, the pressures are different here in the U.S. than a million people trying to get into 10,000 spots. I guess it would be telling your son the only acceptable outcome is that you get into Harvard, which is like a 3%, like a minuscule acceptance rate here in the U.S. or something, which, they could fill Harvard many times over with equally qualified candidates. And it's just kind of luck of who's going to get in. Yeah. And it's just so hard for kids now. There's more kids vying for fewer spots. Yeah. You were telling me a story about when Sushant's character is lamenting that this is the message I gave my son, how could I have not said I would share a drink with him no matter what happened with the test? And then one of the characters, who now lives in America, goes out to the balcony and calls his son and says, don't worry, if you don't get an A, I'll still buy you the bike. Yeah. And so you were telling me a story about the director and how he came up with that scene.
Yeah. So this is secondhand. So apparently Tiwari, the director, and Puneet here in the US, in Chicago with us. So Puneet was sharing that he wanted this to be a very real scene. So he actually called him and said, okay, you are in the US, and if you had to tell this message to your kid over the phone, how would you do it? So it was very interesting that he went to that level of detail to capture the authenticity of the emotion and the feeling that the parent would feel when saying something to their child. And what I was told was, they recorded that, they did a video recording, and then, so they used that in the movie when mommy calls back his son and he says, hey.
Right. And because it was also, the language of A+, B-, whatever, that would be kind of American grades.
And to your point, that's a great thing he did, but apparently he's done the same homework across the board, Seth, So to give you a perspective, he was not part of this general championship. This happened prior to him joining IIT. So all this is done by interviewing, seniors and people who have lived the experience. So he has done a fantastic homework of capturing their sense. I think we was able to do it because the fact that he lived the experience and he wanted to basically make it, more authentic. But the general championship is a general attitude of IITians. They're very competitive, right? You give them a problem and they are so focused in that outcome, I think they lose perspective on other things, right? And that's the message I think he wanted to give. And I think he has researched every portion of this very well and brought it all together, right? It looks disjointed in some cases, but especially the competition part is extended. But I didn't feel it that way. Because it was all happening for me, right? Except the surprise ending where he called ourselves losers. But that's okay. I can understand that. But he's done a very good job with the research. A lot of credit to him.
When you went in, you probably, if it was a movie about your own experience, you kind of probably went in with a little bit of dread, like, oh my gosh, I hope this movie is good, and I hope it's, because they have to, like you say, telescope maybe a couple of characters into one and make certain changes to the plot to make it more, a movie. But it seems like it really captured something that gave you guys a lot of nostalgia and brought you back to those memories.
Absolutely. They did a fantastic job.
Partly because everybody could relate to the experience, right? Everybody can share what is shown on the screen. So almost every IITian who sees it will be like, wow, that's me. I mean, there's us in everything he has shown. So he's done a nice job hitting the sweet spot.
Yeah, because there were so many different kinds of characters.
Yeah.
You could kind of identify, well, I was the nerdy kid that kept calling home to my mom, or I was the hard drinking. You're laughing, Seth. Which one were you? I'm wondering.
I was the nerdy kid who didn't call anybody.
You didn't call anybody. What was your favorite part of the movie? What really resonated with you?
It was built up really well. So every time, and I could relate to each and every scene and each and every experience. Literally the drama, the competition. So I used to actively play a lot of different sports, and it was pretty competitive, and so I could relate to each of those. How we would calculate the points and how we would work hard.
Like the charts.
But I think the H4 guys were just way too intense.
How about you, Krishna? Was there a particular part that really resonated with you?
I think the message was very well delivered. In the end, the human element was brought out, right? So what? We are all in IIT, but in the end, we're all humans, and don't forget that you have to bear that in mind, right? So it was grounding in the end. In the end, it was a very grounding, level-setting experience. And other than that, he was very nice in interspersing the story with what's happening with the kid, right? I mean, that was like he kept that as a substrate, and we brought the nostalgia. So I think he kept the message flowing throughout the.
Yeah, I really liked how he transitioned. It would be maybe one line of dialogue, and then that would take you back, or then dialogue from the past would then bring you back to the. It was very well done for me how he went back and forth with the flashbacks to the present day. The only thing that I had an issue with, and you can look at Seth, like every 40-something person in the film suddenly had a receding hairline. Some guys look better in their 40s. That was one of my quibbles. I'm like, seriously? Like, not that you don't look great, KK. I like, suddenly realized what I said. But I was like, oh, okay. But I really only had quibbles with the film. Otherwise, I just thought it was so well done. It was really well done. Adangao, his previous film, was so big, and what I'm reading is this one is really getting a strong response. It was kind of quiet marketing, and I didn't know if it was going to kind of slip through the cracks, but it seems like word of mouth is spreading what a touching film it is, what a heartwarming film it is, and it has this nostalgia factor for everyone who's gone through this kind of college experience, and they're really loving it, so which is great.
I've seen it once with my buddies from college, and now I'm going to take my kids and go see it again. So this is going to be a multiple watching experience for me.
Yeah, almost every family is doing that. Every person is doing that, taking their family afterwards. So I think that's a good thing.
So what was your response? How many the other guys that you went with, did they also have the same?
Loved it.
Oh,
loved it. They loved it.
Yeah.
We could all relate to it. Literally every scene. And as KK was mentioning, it's really well researched. Everything there was pretty authentic, including to the point, like, we would have water fights. For lack of anything else, we would be carrying buckets of water to the neighboring hostels and dunking people.
This is not something that we had at my college. We did not have buckets to have. Maybe they would have water balloon fights. But we
So that's exactly how it started, for no reason.
Yeah.
For no reason, it started, right? For no reason.
Nobody would know who started it, why it started, but the fact that I'm wet means a few other people need to get wet. Get the buckets, wake up the people, start going hostel by hostel and start dunking everybody. And nobody knows why are you dunking me. I have no idea, but hey, it's your turn to get wet.
It usually is the monsoon season when we get into IIT in June. Heavy monsoon in Bombay. It used to be like clockwork, right? Come June, it used to pour, and when we get in for the I think for 20 days to a month it rains, Gopi, right? I mean, so everything happens in the rain. A lot of things what you saw there happened in the rain, in the fields, right? We used to get wet, slush, everything, right? So it is just an unbelievable experience.
So when you went to school with this director, did you have any idea? Here he was on the track to be an engineering student. Did you ever imagine that he would be such an acclaimed film director? Or
I think KK will have a better perspective. They
Yeah,
were in the same hostel.
to me, who would have thought, right? So, but he had sportsman. Right off the bat in the first year when he was a freshman, he was a good sportsman in hostel, right? And that was a plus. I mean, that enabled him to like interact more with seniors. And I believe he had a knack for writing, and I believe he had a knack for performance arts, but I think it carried transition later on when he really said, my calling is not this, I want to do something else. And he just moved on, and I believe he started directing advertisements and then, transitioned to Hollywood.
is this the same college where Bhardwaj Rangan went, or is that a different school experience?
Different. So yeah, he and I went to the same high school.
Oh, same high school. Okay. Yeah. Right. It was small. Right.
Yep.
And there's another person who was on an engineering track and then was a good writer and then left the U.S. and went back to India to become this nationally acclaimed film critic. So
that is Bhardwaj Rangan. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think it's the same in the U.S. of people saying that it seems to just be an overwhelming pressure for kids in India to go the engineering track. Would you say that's correct? Or
there has been a generational shift that's happened in the 90s and prior to that. That was the predominant driving force. Either you're an engineer or a doctor.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that pressure has gone down quite a bit now, and it's a lot more diverse than it was when the movie was taken. So
right, but at that time,
yeah,
it's similar. There's similar elements to like Three Idiots, where there's one character that wants to be a photographer, but
exactly.
all of his family can see is, well, you have to be an engineer. What are you talking about?
That's correct. Yeah.
You can't make a living doing something creative.
Yes, yeah.
So, Krishna, would you agree that there was just a lot of pressure when you were growing up around in India that everyone had to go the engineering kind of track? Or
yeah, I mean, it is pretty much one track. I mean, like Gopi says, it's pretty much either or. Either it's engineering or medicine. Right? And the pressure is fairly high, just like the movie says, just like the movie portrays. It was pretty high for, anybody who was in the 12th grade. So it's a motivating thing. And on one hand, we all been through and survived, but it could be stressful at the same time. I think that's what the movie brings about, right? I think there's a lot of stress out there in today's context, and he's just putting that in perspective.
Right. I think mental health issues here in the U.S., I mentioned this, especially high school and college-age kids, is definitely an issue because they've felt so much pressure to be perfect. Not necessarily that they have to pick one particular study, that they have to go medicine or they have to go engineering, but this stress of everything has to be perfect for that college application, and then they kind of get to college and then they don't even kind of know what to do with themselves. Like they can't cope with not being perfect, with a professor maybe giving them a C on a paper or whatever it is, or just living away from home because we've been such helicopter parents monitoring every single thing that they've done that then they can't cope when they're by themselves and have to do everything themselves. So it's hard to kind of thread that needle of giving them independence as they go along, and letting them fail so that they learn and they can have had that experience and then be able to cope when they're by themselves in college. So yeah, it's really hard. Like I said, I really empathized with the parental figures. And I thought it was interesting also that here it was a divorced couple and the father had custody. That was primary custody. That was kind of interesting. And he was a good father. But however you are as a father or a mother, you say things without intending maybe the kid to hear it the way that they're hearing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're saying it one way and thinking that they're interpreting one way, but they may be interpreting it a completely different way than what you thought. Like,
That's right, yeah.
you know.
We all are guilty of that. And I think this, at least for me, it was interesting because I asked myself the same question. Am I doing this unintentionally?
Well, you've got very high-powered kids that are intense on their own and very talented, and I know you have very talented daughters, and yeah, but it's still hard. Yeah. It's really hard to thread that needle. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about the movie, or?
Yeah, I like that one thing. So for the H4 people, or the people who graduated from H4, it's particularly nostalgic because that hostel is going to be brought down and they're going to be building a new high-rise over there, right? So I'm glad he immortalized by shooting it in the hostel.
Oh, he shot it at the actual place, and that's going to be torn down.
That's exactly where we spent 4 years. I spent more than that there. That's exactly where we spent our formative years, so to speak. So he got that on camera. So it's particularly sweet for me because it's there. There's movies there, right? Showing my hostel where I went to school. So.
Right, and so then they're tearing it down to build, because they were kind of saying it was run down at that time, and then they're tearing it down to make new dorms, yeah.
For all the H4, it makes it even more special. So.
Oh, wow, that's so great. I'm really glad you mentioned that. Well, I really appreciate you both joining me for this video because I think this movie is so good and it's bringing out such a good feeling. And for me, it was like, it's so fascinating to talk to someone. And because as I was sitting in the theater, I was wondering, how real is this? Is this really capturing that moment? It seemed like it was, but it's nice to have that confirmation that, yes, this is what it was really like in that moment. So awesome. All right. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Cheers.